for risk of messing up the chemistry of the show. How old is this show?
I mean,
7 years?
The show, yeah,
7 years?
7.5 years.
It's the worst mountain I've seen in my, I don't know if the show has been, the mountain's 7 years old, but since I've been coming on the show.
We've been doing the mountain for 2 years.
Is it only 2 years old?
Yeah. 2 years.
Worst mountain I've seen in 2 years. I second what Coach said. The youngsters, my gosh, leave them alone. Shador, I love Shador.
Vacancies?
Ward, leave,
like
yes, vacancies. We saw it hurt Caleb.
It didn't hurt him.
But here's the thing, Purdy's way too low.
Oh my, Purdy was there
You
last
had a nice little stretch of unbiasedness a few months ago.
when he was playing.
And now this is completely. Matthew Stafford, can we stop the Matthew Stafford
Oh my
love?
God, you're
is
not
a
comparing.
wild
Matthew
argument.
Stafford has a quarterback rating of about 80 with 1 touchdown and 1 interception over the last 2 weeks.
One of those
He
weeks,
has
didn't
been
he outplay
bad.
Purdy?
He has
and
been,
beat him?
hold on. He has been bad.
Yeah.
He threw 1 good pass that game, which did win the game. But Matthew Stafford has been bad the last few weeks. Period. Caleb has 9 straight losses.
I'm doing Caleb.
Okay,
You stay on
get
your
him
Purdy.
down there. Nah, I mean, my goodness, he scored 3 points against
What
the
does that
Patriots.
have to do with
Okay,
Brock
I'll leave
Purdy?
it alone. Brock Purdy has a higher passer rating than the entire row above him. And a few other guys. Put the mountain back on. He has a higher passer rating than everybody on the row above
not
him.
passer
And
rating,
several of the he has the same number of touchdowns, 17, as Geno Smith with 5 fewer interceptions. How about that, huh? How about that? He's got the 3rd in the league in yards per attempt. He's 13th in total yards. Like, I'm not saying he's having a year he had last year, but to have him down there with Joe Flacco, below Bo Nix and Caleb.
Those guys are playing better.
No, they aren't.
Bro.
Caleb can't buy a win.
Neither can Purdy.
Bryce Young has a passer rating of 76.
All right.
What are we doing?
All right.
This is a terrible mountain.
All right.
It's horrible.
All right. Here's the problem.
It's Purdy embarrassing.
Yeah, we
That's
saw
what it is.
Here's the
My
problem. bro.
gosh.
That Purdy-Matt Stafford duel that you were referencing so
Duel?
much.
They both were
That
bad.
game, okay, great. And Purdy in that game, with the playoffs on the line, threw a pick to cost his team any chance at continuing their season. Then this week, he followed
threw for
it
300
this
yards
week,
and 2 touchdowns.
This
What did
week,
we just? That doesn't matter.
Well, let's be
you keep
fair on what he
saying
did.
Tua outdueled him, did he?
Yes.
Now
because-
quarterback wins matter.
No, again, Brew, I very politely listened to you.
It's
No, he didn't.
But no, because I think people might not have watched the game, so I want to tell them what happened. They were once again down less than a touchdown. The ball was in Brock Purdy's hands, and he once again threw a pick to finish the game. At that point, by the way, he didn't have anything close to 300 yards. Then when the
he did. He was like 250, 260
exactly.
at that point.
And then the Dolphins got the 2-score touchdown, and he got some garbage time yards at the end. When in
Why were they
back-to-back
even in the
weeks-
game?
Not because of him.
Really?
Like,
His 2 touchdown passes didn't matter?
No, honestly, if they were going to say why they were in the
their
game, it was
4-string
because
running back.
Deebo Samuel finally played great. But regardless, I'm
Really?
not.
Did he score?
Yes, he did.
Won, all right,
Yes.
from Purdy, right?
Yes, the receivers catch the passes from the quarterback.
I thought he threw it to himself.
um,
About this mountain.
So, no, Brew, he's not going to move up.
Caleb is surrounded by Avengers.
I'm doing Caleb.
All right, have at it. Have at it.
Is Purdy 1-5 in his last 6 games, or
Yes.
1-4? What are you
Yeah.
doing?
It's not. You're the QB wins guy. You're not
No,
supposed
but I
to
am
be the QB
game
wins
one
guy.
interceptions. He
Ended the game.
Caleb has. I could go off on Caleb. Go ahead.
Then you should have chosen Caleb in the Google
Well,
Doc.
you chose him before me.
Ooh, they just revealed how they do it. They have their Google Doc where they pick and all that type of stuff. That's funny. All right. Listen. I'm not going to go on and unpack this entire game in terms of what happened, but Purdy is obviously just wrongfully aligned with all of this. I mean, again, this is the disrespect of putting college players on the same row as Purdy, right? A guy who has led his team to a Super Bowl. This whole idea again, like Nick even essentially said the quiet part out loud. Oh, now that Debo played great, and then it's just like, okay, so Debo played great, and Brock Purdy doesn't get any credit, and then when Debo plays bad, then Purdy can't play good because like it just doesn't make sense. And I agree. I'm not arguing that Brock Purdy has been just this elite top 5 quarterback in the NFL and just his rosters failing him. Like, that's not the argument either. And people are just so extreme with their views of Brock Purdy, which is so wild. It really, really is wild. How people either are just, they just can't wrap their head around him just being a really good quarterback who, when he's in the right situation, can legitimately play as a top quarterback in the NFL. Because of his skill set, and I've said this about a handful of quarterbacks, whether Stafford or Goff, or even Burrow for that matter, they can't transcend the talent around them. They can't. We saw Stafford do essentially nothing when Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and O-line weren't there. Okay? Brock Purdy does not have the physical skill set of like a Josh Allen, a Lamar, or Mahomes, where they can really overcome the roster around them. And again, even those guys are still limited within reason, but they can still overcome a little bit more than, say, a Brock Purdy. And so to just hang this all on Purdy, again, continues to be pretty insane. And this is damned if you do, damned if you don't. Again, if he plays pretty good and put up good numbers, you give all the credit to the wide receivers, the tight end, Shanahan, whoever. And when the game doesn't go well, like for instance, the game that he's referencing before against the 49ers versus the Rams, when one Deebo Samuels kept dropping the ball, took away yards and a touchdown from Brock Purdy, it's okay. And again, when he mentioned, oh, well, Matthew Stafford had a game-winning touchdown or whatever, or a game-winning drive, and Brock Purdy threw an interception, Matthew Stafford almost threw like 4 interceptions. So it's just sheer luck that those balls weren't intercepted. Like, truly luck. Truly luck. So that's why you have to look beyond just the pure outcome of all of this. Do you realize that Brock Purdy was the leading rusher with 4 carries for 26 yards? They only had 81 yards total. That's not how Brock... Imagine if Jared Goff had to be the leading rusher for the Lions. Imagine that. It's not going to go well. I mean, like, I don't know what you really want Brock Purdy to do in this situation. Seriously. What do you really realistically want him to do? They got Deebo Samuel as the second best rusher. But literally, Brock Purdy's doing better. I mean, I just don't know what you're expecting Purdy to be able to do. Seriously. It's just kind of I mean, here we are. Passing first downs, 16. Rushing first downs, 3. 3 whole rushing first downs. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that is legitimately crazy. You are putting some, not to mention 11 penalties. 11 penalties for 90 yards. A near whole football field. That's on Brock Purdy too now? That's all on Brock Purdy? I mean, I just don't understand why you want to keep lumping all this blame on him. Seriously. I mean, it's just unwarranted at this point. It really is. It's just too, you're just asking too much of that style of quarterback. Stafford couldn't get away with it. Herbert couldn't get away with it. Sam Darnold couldn't get away with it. Jared Goff couldn't get away with it. Joe Burrow couldn't get away with it. Geno couldn't get away with it. I mean, we can go on and on and on. All of these guys need more. I mean, again, really, right now, just quick math, you would have Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, Hurts, Jaden. I'm probably forgetting a couple of. That's why I don't like to try to do this on the fly. Those are the guys that could probably survive best without a run game. And again, not even Mahomes as much now because we know Mahomes really can't rely on that as heavily. They didn't really lean on Mahomes to really add a run dynamic when Pacheco went down. But we know Jaden has been relied on in the run game, and Hurts and Lamar and Allen. But I mean, you have no run game. I mean, again, imagine if the Lions or the Vikings or the Bengals had 11 penalties, 80 rushing yards, and over a quarter of that came from, Burrow or Goff or Darnold. How good do you think those quarterbacks would be in that situation? The answer is not good. That's the answer. Spoiler alert. Not that hard of a question. And so it is. It's just really. There's. To win any favor with people who just think that he's a bottom quarterback. I mean, Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is above Brock Purdy. At this point, you'd rather have Cooper Rush than Brock Purdy? Does anyone actually believe that? Seriously. Does anyone actually believe that? If you didn't believe in the potential of a Penix or Drake May or Bryce Young or a Bo Nix, you wouldn't take those over Brock Purdy. You can make the argument for Bo Nix because of what he's kind of been able to show and kind of his mobility. His mobility has actually been, pretty impressive. But Penix hasn't done enough, obviously. Although I think he had a really good game, his first game. Drake May, again, we're talking potential. When we're looking at Drake May, we're not saying today. We're saying potential. It looks like, hey man, that kid can play. So I think that's totally fair. If we're looking at it from the potential lens, but not right now. If you had a really good roster, if you had the Lions roster right now, or the 49ers roster of last year, let's just do that. You have the 49ers roster of last year, everyone's fully healthy, all good. Who's going to play better in that system? Penix, May, Nix, Rush, or Bryce? Tell me. Shador Sanders, Ward, Kyler, Flacco? Who? Only one quarterback has actually proven and shown he would lead that team to a Super Bowl. And he did. Would Caleb? No. There's no reason to believe that. Would Geno? There's no reason to believe that. None. So to just keep putting all these guys ahead of him, again, we don't have to reach the conclusion that Brock Purdy is the best quarterback and he deserves to be above Lamar. Like, that's not what I'm arguing. That's not what Brew's arguing. No one's arguing that. But again, it's actually a beautiful example. You have the exact same team from last year. We just rewind the clock, go to last year. Is Bryce Young leading the 49ers to a Super Bowl? Is Cooper Rush leading that team to a Super Bowl? Bo Nix, Drake May, Penix, Shador, Ward, Kyler, Flacco, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Caleb, Tua? Where's the evidence from that? If anything, we get the opposite of that. We get the opposite evidence of that. So it just really does not make sense. It truly doesn't. And it's just, I don't know, man. This is one of those just cyclical takes that we just keep seeing again and again and again and again and again and again and again. You would have think that Brock Purdy played like absolute garbage, trash, awful. And it's just obviously not the case. The dude has had an inconsistent run game, just a completely injured run game, an inconsistent O-line, inconsistent wide receivers to actually throw the ball to. I mean, Debo's not the same, or he's injured. Jennings, Ayuk gone. Christian McCaffrey's there. Nope, Christian McCaffrey's gone. I just don't know what you would expect a quarterback like Brock Purdy to be able to do in those situations. I really don't. It just doesn't make sense. how you could expect him. Again, if we were trying to figure out, is Brock Purdy as good as Josh Allen, or who's more important to their team, Josh Allen or Brock Purdy, Lamar or Brock Purdy, Mahomes or Brock Purdy, yeah, we could put Purdy on a different level than those quarterbacks. I think that's totally okay and totally fair. But it's kind of like, oh, these are the guys that are at the top of the mountain, and since Brock Purdy's not there, he just completely collapses and falls and rolls down. And it's like, not how this works. That's not how this works. Doesn't make sense. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Brock Purdy being at the way bottom of the mountain? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.